In this section, we're going to look at transactional versus relationship marketing. And to do that, we're going to critique the traditional marketing mix. We're going to examine the differences between transactional and relationship marketing, and then start to understand customer value. So you've all covered the marketing mix already. Okay, so the 4 P's that consist of product, price, place, and promotion. So the product being very much the focus of the mix. So what is the product that we're going to offer? Often it's standard offerings. The price is often focused around getting the best possible price for the product. Place is the distribution channels that the customer can buy the product from. So what are the channels that the organization needs to select to enable the customer to buy it? And then last is always the promotion of the product. And again, often these are seen in isolation. One of the biggest critiques of the P's, 4 or 7, and we'll go on to the 7 P's in a moment, is that these levers are often examined in isolation. So companies will look at what is the product we're offering, what is the price we're going to sell it for, where are the customers going to buy it, and how much can we get for it. Again, it's also very transactional. It's often used for products with low complexity. So in these situations, the marketer is active, bringing these products to market and making the customer aware of them. The marketing is very much focused around the customer behavior and what the needs are that this product can serve as a solution for. So it's not tailoring the product in any way, shape or form to the needs of the customer. It's identifying the customer needs that exist that this product can solve and support. And the role of the marketer is to influence the buying behavior in their favor. Okay. In the marketing mix, in that transactional marketing, the customer is often passive. Customers there just waiting for products to be served up to them, wait for the promotions to come out. The customer knows what their needs are and are happy to take standard offerings. And also that there is the consideration that customers are rational and make decisions based on what is the price, what is the quality, and how easy is it to buy and integrate. In transactional marketing, the customer is always brought in at the end of the production process. The good is finished and being sold to the customer. Okay, and the customer in these traditional marketing mix, and considered especially in transactional marketing, that the customer's aim is to get the lowest possible price. So it goes back to that I win, you lose sales orientation examples. And it's important that there's no further customization need of this product because the company isn't in a position to tailor that product to that customer. So in transaction marketing, there's a very, very clearly defined beginning and end of the sale. Okay. It's very much focused around features and benefits of the product. So what is it about the product what features of the product is it that the customer will appreciate? What the benefits of this product to the consumer? Very short sales cycle because it's a standard product, often meeting existing needs. The customer knows what their needs are and they're just buying the solution to their problem. I've run out of paper, I'll buy paper. I've run out of printed toner, I'll buy toner. Simple products solving simple problems. Low service. There isn't a need for that service, ongoing service. And it's all about getting the maximum profitability. Okay, so the marketer and the salesperson wants to get the maximum price. Conversely, the buyer wants to get the lowest possible price to ensure that their budgets are intact. Okay, so there's that tension there. There's moderate customer contact. And that's because there's only the need for that sales interaction. There's no need for that ongoing relationship. All right. So the value is very much exchanged in that, but receiving the product and handing over the money. The marketer gets the value from receiving the money. The buyer receives value from the product. It's value in exchange. The 7 P's were developed as an evolution of the 4 P's when it started to recognize the importance of services, even in pure goods. I can't highlight that enough. Even in pure goods, there is the need now, as the markets become more complex and more crowded, a point of differentiation can often be the service that's offered around the product and the additional intangible benefits such as warranties, guarantees. So the additional 3 Ps is process, people, and physical evidence. Okay, and with these 3, there's additional levers for the company to examine to enhance their competitive advantage. So what is the culture of the organization? What kind of people do our customers like to deal with? How do we need to recruit to meet the needs of the customer? What kind of people do we need? Do we need a call center? Do we need sales team? Do we need after sales engineers that go out and support the customer? Physical evidence. What is what evidence of the service does the customer have? So what's the end thing that the customer can feel confident that they've actually bought the service, are experiencing the service, and have a result from the service? Because remember, services by their nature are intangible. And process. So what is the processes that you need to buy the product, to embed the product? And this is where the rise of the servicescape. How does the customer know that they're in the service and experiencing it? What's the process that they go through to get that transformation to the final end point? So in the previous example, we gave the example of an accountant. Okay, so what do you get as physical evidence that the accountant has done his job? The 7 Ps make the marketer more active within the relationship. So you're looking at both the customer and the marketer and the relationship between them. Okay, so we start looking at the 7 Ps that there is more of a relationship between the customer and the seller. And there's that emphasis on customer retention. So how do we get the customer to come back? High levels of customer service. The 7 Ps by their nature are the additional 3 Ps are services in their nature. And there's an increasing recognition that both need to achieve a fair price to ensure that ongoing survival of the organizations. But the 7 Ps are critiqued for being siloed. Each P is examined in isolation, and often they're not looking at making more bespoke offerings to the customer. Okay, so you're still looking at those fairly simple products and services. That then has evolved onto relationship marketing. So we examined the role of business networks and ecosystems in the previous lecture. And as such, we looked at the actors that exist within those networks and the relationships between them and how they started to embed their resources, embed their capabilities, and actually exchange them with one another for the mutual good. And that is where we are now with relationship marketing. And it's attracting, maintaining in multi-service organizations and enhancing customer relationships. So it's making those customer not just that transaction, but actually how do we work together for each other's mutual benefit? As such, relationship marketing is ongoing in its nature. There's a focus on customer value, and we'll come to customer value in a moment. So what is it that the customer values and how can we deliver it to them? No more, no less. Often the sales cycles are that much longer because there is the need to build that relationship. And different countries have different requirements when building relationships, and it can come down to cultural differences, it can come down to organizational differences. And the level of complexity of the product also has another big impact of that sales cycle. Okay, so if you're selling something to, say, HS2, you'll be starting probably about 2 or 3 years ago. Even though it's only going to get built over the next 2 decades, you would have probably started your sales process a couple of years ago to make sure that you had those relationships in place with the designers, those people who are making the specifications for the design, making sure that your name is known, that your product is actually at the fore when they're setting out those specifications, so that when you come to build it, specifications are your product. so that when it comes to build it, you're just called up to go, your product meets these specifications, could we have X amount? That also allows you to know how much you need to allow you to then plan 3, 5, 10 years in advance. So they can have longer sales cycles, okay? And it absolutely does. There's niche communication in relationship marketing, because often you're talking one-on-one, two-on-two, and there could be up to about 6 decision makers in the average business-to-business decision. As such, the communication to each is niche. There could be communication by business function, there could be communication by problem. And Ingrid from Money Hub last week said that they segment their customers based on the problems that they have, and they focus their communication on the value that that customer sees in the product. So same product, but they could be communicating different features to different customers depending on the problem that's being solved. Okay. There's high customer service and high commitment in relationship marketing. So once the customer commits to a product, often after they've embedded it, once they've got the processes around it in their place, it's very hard for them to change and very painful to change. So it's really important to make the right decisions in the first place. So there's no need to switch, because switching in business environments are very hard. And quality is a concern for everyone involved, both the buyer and the seller, because quality is created by the buyer feeding back the issues that they're having to allow that seller to then solve them. If there's bugs in the system, if it's crashing, if there's something happening, if there's something happening and causing the product to fail, they feed that back really quickly so that that seller can then develop a solution for it. And that, again, that is that high customer contact as a result. So there's uncertainties in every decision that you make. There are uncertainties. Okay, so the buyer often doesn't know what their needs are. Okay, they don't know how much they need. They don't know what the market's doing. They're unsure about how the transaction's going to go. So the buyer might know that they're going to need X amount HS2. They need X amount of railway sleepers for the entire project, but they don't know when the project's going to be delivered. They don't know how many they're going to need and when they're going to need it. They don't know whether COVID will come along and all of a sudden HS2 is cancelled. They don't know whether the transaction itself, how will they be delivered? How would you work that organization? So that buyer has a certain amount of anxieties and uncertainties that exists within it. The seller, likewise, doesn't know how much capacity they're going to need. Okay? They don't know how much they're going to have to set up. Are these sleeper manufacturers, is British Steel going to need to set up a new factory? Are they going to need to take on more staff? When are they going to need to take on more staff? When is the demand at its peak? What's the application of the product? So is it the same sleeper for the entire railway network, or actually are they going to need different sleepers in corners, for instance, in turns, because there's different levels of stress that runs through it? Is the transaction, how they're going to transact with one another? Is it going to be direct with a company, or is it going to be through someone, a subcontractor, for instance? The seller has the knowledge, and like we examined in the business ecosystem, there's a lot of knowledge within the ecosystem that remains untapped. If you're just transactional in your nature, you're going to miss the benefits of that knowledge to actually solve problems in a better way. Okay? And as such, by having that relationship, they can actually alleviate each other's concerns and uncertainties by ensuring that win-win, working together collaboration. The seller can give the buyer the benefit of their knowledge. So for instance, British Steel know everything there is to know about steel, about sleepers, about railway, about the railway track, and how it performs into different situations. Does it need grinding? Does it, do you need to do certain additional maintenance requirements? Does it need tamping down? Things like that. But if the buyer were just to go, I need railway track, I'm going to buy X amount, and it's just going to be transactional, they will lose the benefit of that knowledge. Likewise, by having that relationship, they can say what their capacity is. They can have that agreements in place that can be a bit more flexible. So that's why that relationship is so key, and they do need to talk to alleviate each other's certainties. British Steel can now plan for the future because they know what HS2 needs to buy, when they're going to need it, and they can plan their capacity accordingly. So we come to customer value. And the business marketing really is all about understanding customer value. And that goes beyond just the financial, how much does the customer want to pay, but actually what is the value that this company sees in this product? What do they value in terms of customer service? How much do they want from us in terms of customer service? How much do they need in terms of onboarding? Is there the need for an onboarding process? If the customer doesn't value it, then there's no need to deliver it. So by understanding what it is the customer wants and values, you can then tailor your offering to just what your buyer wants. No more, no less. With the standard 7Ps marketing mix, you have one offering, and that all gets thrown at the customer, regardless of whether they value it or not, which means you could be spending so much more than you need to, both in time, resources, and money, to fulfill those customer needs, and actually missing them because the customer's getting things that they don't want, don't need, don't value. Whereas by understanding that customer, and that comes from that relationship, what they value, you can focus just on what it is they want to ensure that you're fulfilling what they want to the highest possible degree. Okay? Whilst also controlling your costs. Why do things that the customer doesn't want or need? Okay? So like I said, the value in business markets is worth more than just the money. It's the technical. So actually, do they value your expertise? Do they value your knowledge? Is there something that they really value in terms of that exchange? Do they want extra meetings with the technical team? It costs you very little. Easy. That's an easy win. Whereas if you didn't offer it, or if you offered it to everyone, then it could become very, very expensive. Some customers want it, some don't. So just give it to those who do. And also, it becomes more tailored and niche to that organization. Now, there's a number of factors that affect the customer's perception of value. A lot of these are obvious. Lead times. If your product it could be better, but if it's going to take that much longer to deliver, without that discussion about what it is you need and when you need it, how long that lead time is could be something that affects that customer's perception of value. Variation of delivery dates. As consumers, you all know how annoying it is when you've ordered something and you get that phone call that goes, oh no, it's going to come tomorrow. Again, or instantly that product in your mind is devalued. It's not suddenly worth as much as you paid for it. Goes without saying, condition, order initiation, credit billing and collection. So credit control can have a really positive and also detrimental effect on your customer's perception of value. So you can offer your customer a credit facility. Great. Some want it, some don't. Some, for instance, if you're in house building, you may value having that credit facility because you can put all your materials on credit, deliver the house. Once the house is sold, pay it off. So actually your cash flow isn't affected. Okay, there's lots of organizations that run like that. How often do you want to be billed? Weekly, monthly, daily, quarterly. Okay? And the collection procedures. This is where a lot of companies come unstuck because they can have a great relationship and then a credit control department that you miss one bill and they're sending out court summons. Where actually all you needed to do is get your salesperson to give a quick call and go, hi, I'm sure there's been a mistake. Do you mind having a look for us? It's something that can be easily solved. Can be often put at quite a lot of risk because a part of the organisation could impact on that relationship. And again, that value. Effectiveness of after-sales support, as you know as consumers, no different in business to business. Okay, what I do want to look at here are number 9 and 10. This performance, product downtime, frequency, duration, and the maintenance cost and difficulty is all something that now gets taken into account with an increasing shift from that exchange. How much does a product cost to buy? Initially, that upfront cost to actually lifetime exchange. How much does it cost in use? What's the lifetime cost of this product? More and more companies are shifting to a lifetime cost model, and by doing so, they look at how often does it need to be maintained, how often does it fail, how often does the product need to be replaced. If there is downtime, does it cost us anything? So for instance, when the signals go down at Network Rail, for every minute that the signals are down and the trains can't run, Network Rail has to pay out to the franchisees to compensate them for not running the trains. So actually, if a signal fails, that is more, that can often cost Network Rail far more in a few minutes, especially if it's on a London mainline route, than the product even costs in the first place. Okay, so the focus is less on how cheap can I buy it to actually, what is this going to cost me over the full lifetime that this is going to be in the field? So have a look at what it is your customer values. For Network Rail, not having to maintain it, not having it fail, and having it last a very long time in very difficult conditions, if it can do all of those things, Network Rail will pay a lot for the product. Because actually, whilst the upfront cost is high, over the lifetime of the product, it's not. So again, it comes back to understanding what it is your customer values and delivering it. No more and no less. Thank you very much.